Have you ever tried to catch a wave? You know, you can't catch a wave because a wave is constantly in movement. You put your arms around a wave, the wave just goes through your arms. A wave rises, a wave falls, it rises, it falls. A wave is constantly on the move. Well, that is the example which James gives us in James 1:6 when he describes a man that's wavering in his faith. He says, if you're going to ask something of the Lord, verse 6, let him ask in faith. Concretely, be specific, ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. I'll just say it to you like this: faith stands still. When faith knows what it wants, when faith is very specific and concrete about what it needs, it stands in faith. You never read about faith moving around all the time. Faith is always something that stands still. But he that doubts, by the way, the Greek word, which means to differ. You're thinking one thing in your heart and another thing in your head. You're saying something different with your mouth. You've got to get your whole being to come into alignment. You've got to get your heart and your mouth saying the same thing, standing in faith. Because he that wavers is like a wave of the sea. One day he prays one thing, the next day he says, well, I don't really know if that's what I wanted, and he prays a different thing. And then the next day his heart's saying one thing and his mouth is saying a different thing. He's like a wave of the sea. He's constantly in movement. Well, God says if you're going to get your prayers answered, you've got to stand still. It's kind of hard to hit a moving target. God is the God that gives. He wants to give to you, but you've got to stay in one spot long enough to receive. So if you know, for instance, that you need a financial blessing, stand in faith for that blessing and don't move. Don't change your mind tomorrow about what you want. Know what you want. Get your heart and your mouth into agreement and stand in one spot in faith, because he that is like a wave rising and falling, constantly moving, the Bible says in verse 7, let not that man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. It's not that God doesn't want to bless. It's just really hard to hit a moving target. Faith stands still. Are you standing still in the things that you're asking for, or are you moving around all the time? The Bible says, anyone who's moving around, let not that man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. You've got to be single-minded if you want to receive something from the Lord. That's something for you to think about today.